What do you see as the main technical difference between a corporate startup and a standalone startup in the restaurant industry? Well, I've never had any personal experience with a individual startup. I've always worked with McDonald's. So I do have friends though in different franchising opportunities, that being Little Caesars, and they do all their own research. They pick their own locations, rent their own buildings. So that's something that we don't have to do. It's all taken care of by McDonald's. There's a lot of people that put in a lot of hours and in most cases months or years of preparation, tracking, and other studies to bring a new location to fruition. So I think that would be the main difference between what the average corporate does for a startup. They have their own research teams. They know how much traffic they need from a Walmart video to, say there's 22,000 cars per day at this intersection, and that's what they base their volume off of. So McDonald's has some similar benchmarks that need to be met during that period, and then we create a new site. So there's a lot of secrecy when a new site's coming. We don't want to alert any of our competitors. But once it gets into the city council, it's public information. So that's usually the first point of contact for the competitors to know that we're coming. Secondly, can you identify the various steps a prospective franchisee follows when proposing a plan for a store at a brand new location? How does it compare with what we saw at Walmart? It's pretty much similar. The franchisee doesn't propose the location. McDonald's finds it, takes care of it, and then they pick the operator that they're going to grow with, based off of a very detailed and highly hard to meet list of achievements that the operators have to have. It's called their franchisee standards. So right now McDonald's is growing with those who exceed, not just meet the standards, those who exceed. So all A's, high B's in those grades. So operators can suggest them and McDonald's will look into them, but they're pretty much doing that work at all times, looking for new opportunities. So how is the background work for a brand new location generally undertaken? Just like I said, there's a lot of demographic studies that go on. We also have to take into consideration, there's a lot of McDonald's in the areas. I mean, I have the one here in Walton and Adams, and then Rochester and Avon. It's only about 2 miles away. So we also have to take into consideration when proposing a new store, what's going to happen to the existing store's sales. So say they build a new store and it takes 8% from the Walton store, 8% from the Rochester store, and 8% from the Crooks and 59 store. If they're not happy with how much that other store is going to take from the other ones, they won't build it. But yeah, lots of demographic studies. They just did one at my Rochester Road location because there's a new one proposed in the Rochester Hills area. So they did the survey with all the customers, and I just received that feedback that anywhere from 5 to 8% is what the effect of a new store is going to be on mine. So I have to brace for that impact, as that's going to affect all of our numbers and profits and things that we can do this year before the store comes. But they interviewed 800 of our customers. Just a detailed interview. Where'd you start from? Where'd you come from? Did you plan to come to McDonald's today for a visit? So it gives me a very detailed approach of where all these people are coming from in the trade area. So we're hoping that the impact will be less, but they give obviously the worst case scenario in those reports. How is staffing handled at a new location when there are other stores? And then what if there are no stores? So if there's other stores, say if I am the lucky one to be blessed with this new store coming to Rochester Hills, at my 3 locations, we'll hire and train 30 people at each store, and then the day it opens, or the day before, we'll do a dry run with the team that's going to start, and then they'll just be transferred over there, trained. They know all the procedures within my company, all the McDonald's standards, and you basically just put the team right in. So if it's a new store, you have to do all that training, and then it's usually only about a week before that you do dry runs with everybody in practice. Or what we do, which is smart, you do like a soft open, where you don't tell anybody you open, you just turn the lights on, and customers start to trickle in. So you get to start at a slower pace than what it's going to build to. So if you announce a grand opening, like 2,500 people are going to show up right at that grand opening, and if you don't have a lot of experienced crew, that's going to cause a lot of problems, and the customer's experience is not going to be very good. So what roadblocks and other challenges exist as far as permits for licenses from city go? In my experience, I've worked with both Utica and Rochester Hills. Rochester Hills is one of the toughest. Certain roadblocks, there's, basically the city has a design of what they want to see, and then we have a design of what McDonald's demands. So there's a lot of interesting negotiation that goes on when you're settling those differences. But it's mainly zoning ordinances and stuff that you have to ask for special permits for. I'm not aware of any zoning issues speaking directly to too many fast food locations with proximity and all that. I don't think that they could specifically name a quick service restaurant, because that would be kind of discrimination against that group of business people. So the wording would be a little smarter than, quote unquote, we can't have 2 McDonald's restaurants within a 2-mile radius. But that's kind of up to what the city board wants to allow. As happens with Walmarts, our area residents involved in store location conversations. Yeah, once it goes to city council, everybody has their opportunity to speak if they want it, if they don't want it, how high they want the sign, if they want, say if there's residential behind the proposed restaurant site, they can ask for certain trees to be planted or fences to be built so that the floodlights from the parking lot don't bleed over into their bedrooms and whatnot. So there is some conversation, and Rochester Hills takes the citizens very seriously, so more so than I've seen in the other township meetings that I've worked in. So open questions.
You said when a new store opens up, close to other ones, that you expect your numbers to go down 8, or you said 8 to 10% or something like that?
That's the study that was just done for there's a new location going in Rochester Hills. So my Rochester store is 2 miles from that. So they expect the study that was done.
Do they give you anything that you can do based off that you can kind of do to help your numbers, or not go down that much, or you give it that?
Yeah, the thing is, you can do promotions, but then you're going to be raising your food costs to give stuff away to bring people over. And if you end up being the one that owns that, you just accept it as is. Like, part of your business is going to go to the other one. However, that Rochester store does about just under $3 million in volume. So if we lose 10% of that, and it goes over to the other store, but that new store is also going to expected to do $3 million.
I guess it's different if you own both of them because you don't really care about.
Yeah, so that's why I'm hoping that I'll be blessed with that other location, or else there's direct money coming out of my business going into whether it be the corporation or some other operator that gets it. So I've done everything in my power to kind of box it in, and all my franchising standards are exceeding expectations. So. Fingers crossed.
How competitive is it? Like, is there more than 3 or 4 people each trying to get to at McDonald's location?
Yeah, they're not building a lot of new ones, so that's the thing, when new opportunity comes up or somebody wants to get out, there's usually 4 or 5 area, operators whose corners meet, and so that's where the competition comes. Is right now, sales have been kind of soft for the last 6 months. We went about 5.5 years straight of 5 to 7% sales increases. That's a good run. But now with the, the weather that we've had and some of the other competition that we have coming into the markets, we've seen kind of a downturn, which we're not used to. I haven't looked at a negative sales report in 5 years. So you start to get worried, although we have to take into consideration this is the roughest winter that we've seen in 5 years. So we don't want to make any stupid moves because we're getting nervous, but at the same time, we got to get the ball rolling again. So new competitors, goes back to that. So the only way for me to grow my business right now isn't really looking like it's going to be through sales, it's acquisition. So with a 4th store, I could grow my company 25%. And that's why I've done everything to make sure my standards are good for that next location. And then when it turns around, you get the added benefit of sales increases, helps your equity, helps your cash flow, all those things. So we just have to weather the storm right now, and the best operators will do that.
When you said that you look into demographics, is there any certain variables you place higher importance on? Is it, traffic volume at an intersection per hour? Is it income of the average household in that area? What are like the top 3, I would say, that are most important?
I would say the top one is just traffic. McDonald's, in the survey that they gave me, 80% of the people that come to that Rochester and Avon store don't plan stopping there until they drive by and see the sign. And they're like, okay, it's lunchtime. So that was really interesting to me. I would have thought, I know what I'm going to eat at lunchtime every day. So I was surprised to see that there's not so much planning. 20% of it is the shopping area right there at Rochester and Avon. But the majority, 60% of it, is because the people live, their houses in that area, and that's their local McDonald's. So it's pretty much just how many cars are driving by, and then you can kind of equate how that sales is going to go based off of all the other McDonald's locations. So
what's the labor percentage that you're looking to hit like every day?
24 to 25%. So every dollar we take in, 25 cents of it is to pay people. So you're at about, every year, my average store pays about $800,000 to $850,000 in wages.
How much sales do you make, like the max sales do you make at the stores, like in a certain day? 4,000?
It just depends based on their volume. So, I mean, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, those are our 3 strongest days. Sunday breakfast is the strongest breakfast day. Monday it's a pretty good breakfast. People are getting back to work. Monday and Tuesday are the slowest lunches and whatnot.
Were you affected at all when all the news was going on about the fast food workers trying to increase their wages?
No, I didn't really see any effect. My average wage is in the $9 area, being up here in Rochester Hills. So I'm always a little bit ahead of the minimum wage. I'm a firm believer that if you pay people peanuts, you'll have monkeys. So we try to make sure that we have good people for our customers, because there's very low tolerance in Rochester Hills for bad service. Citizens expect a lot out of us, so we try to provide that. All my competitors too. I mean, Panera, they have less people on the floor, but they pay them a higher wage. So I do have to keep up with that competition, or else I'll just get, the bottom end of the barrel. So we have to be in that game. Personally, obviously all these answers are are mine. I'm not a corporate spokesperson, so this is just my understanding of my individual businesses. But, you know, to make a big jump like that, almost doubling the minimum wage would be very difficult to handle. I'm all for, let's keep moving everybody's wage up. It is behind right now at 7.25 federally, 7.40 in the state. So I do see that we do need a bump. It really won't affect me, but there are some people out there that pay the majority of their people minimum wage. I want to keep a lower turnover, so we have a pretty detailed program of, you know, every 6 months they get eval'd, and then it's performance bonuses on that. But you want to show people that, you know, you give the efforts, and we'll set a plan up with you, learn these things about the business, and we can move you up to this wage. A lot more people stick around. And one of the biggest expenses in our business is turnover. At the end of 90 days, in just one crew person, we have $900 invested, $900, $990, for them to shoulder with somebody, to teach them, paying them to, you know, learn the videos online, the station guidelines, and then they come on the floor and practice it. So I try to focus on keeping that number low and paying people higher, and we have a pretty good people satisfaction index in my stores. So high B, low A, where the average is probably a B. So that's an independent business decision that you have to make. Where do you want to focus your time and money and mitigate your loss? So it's always been take care of the people, they'll take care of the customers, and once that's done, all the bills get paid. So. Any others?
If you don't get the new location, have you thought about what you're going to do next?
No.
No?
I'm gonna have a good hard cry. But you know, like anything, I'm positively focused that I'm the strongest candidate. I've worked, you know, almost 8 years as an operator right now, and the last 18 months I've just sharpened the pencil and made sure that we kept making improvements, which we did over every single area. So went from good to great, in my opinion. I just hope that they see it the same way. So the other thing maybe that would work in my favor is the next closest operator to that store is over 4 miles away. So from a proximity standpoint, I'm the closest at 2. I'm the only operator in Rochester Hills. The only other store in Rochester Hills is owned by the corporation, Crooks and 59, so we got it.
How does one become an operator?
Well, there's a process that you go through. It's called a registered applicant. That's somebody who wants to come from the outside in. It's about a 5 or 6 year program where, you know, you work from the ground up. You learn every single position, and then they would come work for an operator and kind of learn the business end from us. You know, how to run the books. Why do you make certain decisions? They'll go to co-op meetings so they can talk to the other operators to get their points of view and things that they're doing to succeed. And then it's kind of a waiting game. Mostly new applicants would get the opportunity at buying somebody who is selling. Say if the single store comes up in Rochester Hills, there's already, you know, 4 established operators in the area, and it's kind of difficult to make a living, or say protect yourself. If you get road construction, if you have one store, you're going to have massive problems. So McDonald's wants to start people with 2 to 3 restaurants, because if one store's sales are bad due to road construction, you can balance it with the other 2. They don't want to put somebody in that position with millions of dollars invested on both sides, and they're in a risky, vulnerable position for 7 years that it takes to pay down that first business note. So that one, you know, one in an area like now, say if they opened up 3 new ones in between me and the other 4 operators around, they could potentially look at somebody as, you know, bringing them in and doing those 3. But usually something like that, they would send 1 to each person if they were exceeding the standards. One guy could potentially get all 3. But that would be, I think that would be disadvantageous for the customers to try to open 3 restaurants by one person at a time. Your focus is split 3 ways, so the end result wouldn't be as good, so.
From the corporation's perspective, I've heard the term globalization used in the past, globalization, but allowing more franchisees rather than corporate owning the stores. It would seem that corporate owning the stores when they're first established would be in corporate's best interest because they can hurt the other guys and then sell them or license them to individuals thereafter. And even though they do talk about globalization, I would think that if I were corporate, the bad guy, I would try and own the stores first and then put them up for bid after that. What do you think of that?
They usually hang on to their highest volumes, just like we would if I had 10 stores and one of them only did $1 million in volume. I'd be interested in trading that card and picking up a new one that's 2.5 or 3 million in sales. But typically you'll see them hanging on to the stronger sites. Crooks and 59, that's a $3 million location. They're not planning on selling that. It just keeps growing now that they just had like, what, 3 years of road construction over there. It was first the bridge, then they went from 2 lanes to 4 lanes with median, so they've been through a lot and they're now gonna recoup those sales over the next couple of years here, so. They have to look at it too from an investment standpoint. If they try to keep too many stores, they're the ones that have to run the internal business as well. You gotta come up with the people, they have to keep the extra cash flow, so. Selling it to an operator would be advantageous because they're still gonna get the rent money for it, but they're not gonna have to do all the work. So that's been a successful model for the corporation and the operators, giving small business people the opportunity to buy a location and build a business from what's in, pay rent based off of being one of the most well-recognized brands in the world. And then there's also a shared risk of that. McDonald's buys the land, the building, the owner owns everything inside. McDonald's keeps it, they have that whole package, so a new location could cost them $2 million or it could cost them $4 million if they keep the whole package. So right now about 80% of the stores are run by small business people like myself, so the vast majority. The ones that they do keep, that's pretty much their talent pool. They bring people up for the business, and they go from crew to crew trainer, shift management, and then they get into the department management. They run stores, then they supervise multiple stores, and then they can become field consultants, and then eventually, run departments in the state, go central, worldwide. Don Thompson, our president, he started as a crew person a long time ago. But most of our leaders started as crew. Any other questions?
Were you looking at the Taco Bell that just opened at Walton Livernois? Were you guys looking at that location at all?
No, it was too close between the 2 stores. That's the same guy who owns that. His other store is the #1 in the state, and we're proposing a location right next to that. So that's part of the chip on my shoulder. I hope to be the guy to return the favor. He's taken about 5% from each one of my stores, so I'd hope to go down there and take 20 from him.
The Kroger right there is going through the remodel. They're just starting it, and so there's going to be a lot of construction. So do you think that by him opening so close to their remodel that it was a mistake because there's going to be so much construction?
No, it'll be good. He's going to have all those construction workers. They get a hour's break. Usually the closest thing to is what they're going to eat. We may get a little bit of it, but there's Wendy's, Taco Bell, all right there. Those will probably be the main 2 places that the guys will eat if they're not sack lunching it. So small lot, but still. They have all that parking that they're not paying for that people can park and walk from Kroger if it gets overdone. So Yeah, any new location's kind of a good thing. I'm sure they did their diagnostics on it and figured they could take X amount. I can only imagine what it's doing to that Wendy's, because that's not a very good-looking restaurant. It's all late 60s, early 70s, plastic seats, you know, the old tile. It's got an old, rough look on it, so I can only imagine what they're going through. Don't feel sorry for them, but I can only imagine.
As an operator, do they limit where your locations can be? Like, say you own 2 or 3 down here if you get that one, and say you want one up at Gaylord or something like that, or do they want you all, like, all your locations in one area? Just
Yeah, they want it close, but say if I was a bum and the closest operator was in Clarkston and he was the best candidate for this new store, they would sell it to him if I didn't have my act together, which I do. So, but within, you know, how far do you want to put that guy apart, you know? And there's a lot of other owner-operator organizations up in that area that could easily handle taking that on with less risk, you know? The further your drive is to work, the less positive impact you're going to have as an operator on that store. So on the border, though, there's southeastern Detroit, and then the west side and the north is called Moon. Those are the 2 co-ops. So there are people that have stores in both, but they're still within that, you know, 2 to 10 mile radius. So they won't really throw somebody a store that's, you know, on the other side of the state. They have to be pretty close, but as, you know, if they needed to step over one operator who wasn't exceeding these standards to get it to this guy, they will. So, yeah, it's new stores are very competitive, lots of politicking that goes into it, but, you know, you don't have to politic so much if you just have good numbers, you know, and you have good relationships with the leadership. So, most operators do, though.
How many candidates are you going against in a new store? And do you ever think about going corporate, like not going to a restaurant, but going up above that?
No, never did. I got into it to become an operator and own my own business. I don't know the other candidates because they choose. They already know who's going to get the store, but they haven't released that information yet. So they're going to get their ducks in a row, and then they'll make the phone call, and then the operators who receives the bid has to do their preparation. So.
How long does McDonald's take to generally select an operator to run a store?
I started working with the real estate manager. His name's Tom. Him and I have been working on this new site because I know everybody in Rochester Hills, the mayor and city council and stuff like that. Ed Anzac, he's the head guy for development in Rochester Hills. So over the last 18 months, us 3 and the city have worked on the new location. So 18 months. They've been trying to get a location at this site for 15 to 18 years. And they've just been looking at it. Opportunities keep coming up. Some were too expensive where it wouldn't have been a good investment for McDonald's, so they had to walk away from it. But this is exciting because ever since I became an operator, they said, oh, there's going to be a store built down there. So 8 years later, it's finally coming to fruition. So it can be a long time.
I like what you just said, because in the past you said something along the lines like every store potentially is a good store. I don't want to misquote you. And I have mulled that thought over to ask the question, what makes a location undesirable? Clearly from an operator's perspective, if he's traveling greater distances to get to his stores, that's a down. But what makes a location undesirable?
Undesirable or less desirable is probably the better word. It would be the rent that it's going to have. Most stores nowadays are starting between 13 and 15% rent. Only at the time that the new store is built, the first deal that the operator who receives it, they have the opportunity to negotiate that rent to 11%. And how do you negotiate that rent? With money. You buy more of McDonald's risk to buy the rent down. So, let's say a quarter point percentage off the rent is $45,000 up front. So you want to buy it from 13 to 11, how much money is that? It's a lot more up front. So, but you think about it in the long run, you put an extra $300,000 in up front. If you own the store for 40 years, you're going to recoup that plus a lot more. So, the lowest volume stores are obviously the more profitable stores. So you want to look at the rent. Is a very important piece, probably the most.
So it's like a mortgage, you buy points.
Yeah. So you can have two stores on, they're both doing $3 million, but one pays 11 cents on every dollar and one pays 8.5 on every dollar. There's a huge difference there in profit. So try to buy all the lowest volumes. 8.5% is the lowest that's out there, so it would be a really old store. It would be a 70s model store that you would be buying to have that low of rent. And it would probably need to be knocked down and rebuilt, and that's an expensive process too. However, you're buying that low rent, so it's up to the operator how they want to do it.
I'm surprised it's so much like the housing market. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, if you do get the new store, do you have to pay any of the construction costs?
Oh yeah, lots of them. The average McDonald's costs about $1.8 million right now. So I would say it would be that, maybe even a little bit more, because Rochester Hills is expensive. There's extra zoning stuff that you have to pay for, signage and whatnot. So those are fees that aren't part of the average consensus of how much a McDonald's is. I know the rent would be really expensive at the proposed location, so just running some scenarios that if I did get it, how much money I would need to put down on top of the original note. So I'm working all kinds of numbers. I'm looking at it and praying, hoping. So, but just trying to be best prepared so that if they do call on me, I'm ready.
If you, as an operator, and you have your own franchise, if you choose to, go through reconstruction to, remodel and update, or, purchase a new location that's yet to be built, is it always 100% of the construction costs? Does that burden fall upon you, or is it something that you structure out between corporate and you choose what percentage?
Yeah. There's a 50-50 deal right now. We're doing a lot. They're called MRPs, Major Restaurant Project. Major Restaurant Projects. Major Remodel Project is the name for it. And right now they offer a 50-50. So if you take 50%, McDonald's takes 50, your rent doesn't change, and that's the way it is. There's also, you can increase your rent and have a lower risk or upfront cost to the business. So most people do the 50-50. Nobody wants higher rent,
So I have a question. The article says that the plans include a coffee shop and other sandwich and sub shops and other food outlets have expressed interest. Does that make things a little tougher for the McDonald's?
Yeah, well, it's a good corner, so all smart companies, corporation, business owners are going to be looking and trying to dive onto that new site. Starbucks is going to be moving across the street and getting a new location. They're kind of in an older building in that, what is it next to? next to a cigar shop and a health food shop and a liquor shop. But the facade on it doesn't stand out to me as like, wow, it's a really good-looking Starbucks. It's kind of old, even though the inside is typical Starbucks. So they're gonna move to a fresher location. It's basically just right around the corner, so. Yeah, there's obviously gonna be new competition everywhere, so. But when we go into a market, we usually take the largest share as the largest QSR, so. The existing competitors are probably more worried about who's coming in than I or the operator to receive the bid would be. It's gonna take traffic away from them. You know, you have a totally new option, so.
Has it been decided that McDonald's is going to be in that location for sure, or not yet?
There hasn't been communication set. It's still up to the point of negotiating with the landlord, but it should happen any day. I'll send him an email when we do it.
I know you guys had like Burger King and all them, but have you guys heard about the Bellas and other companies like that, Qdoba, that have been growing too? I know it's not directly related to McDonald's, but somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, they are some of our bigger competitors, and the Mexican type food is the largest growing section of, I guess, themed foods in the United States. So, yeah, we take them very seriously. Their lobbies are full at lunchtime. They have a very simple menu, and the best thing that they're doing that with our current setup, they have the fresh food line up in front of the customers, and so you're staring at it. Our table looks exactly like that with fresh lettuce, tomatoes and stuff, but it's in the back where nobody can see it. So, and the amount of volume that we do, it wouldn't make sense to put that on the front line. So, we have the 3 or 4 register line up, and then the production line goes into the back. But a lot of the meetings that the operators are having with the corporation, we're all talking about we need to market that stuff better. Like, run the camera through the grills and show all our fresh products. I mean, we have the highest food quality standards in the world at McDonald's, but everybody downgrades us as it's not real. I mean, I've even heard, we have fake eggs. I don't know what a fake egg is, and we don't have any. All the sandwiches that get the round egg, those are all shelled eggs from Michigan, that are cracked and made fresh that day. So it's interesting. We need to market differently, and we have good products. We get a bad rap as, you're obviously a big target when you're #1 in your industry. So a lot of people try to come after that. Subway has the same thing. You see all the fresh products and stuff. I don't think their meat looks very good or fresh or appetizing, but they have a pretty good understanding of the market that the food's healthier. But they try to pull the wool over the consumer's eyes a little bit, because when they advertise their sandwich, it's a build your own platform, so they only advertise the bread and the meat. Almost 100% of their customers put cheese on it, so that's going to add fat and calories that they're not listing on that. And everybody gets, a half cup to a cup of mayonnaise, which almost doubles or triples their salary or their sandwich's fat or calorie content. So they've been able to kind of fly below the radar. But I think customers are, getting wise to it. They know, like, if I'm adding all this stuff to it, it's not going to be as healthy. But they have a neat little opportunity that they can market it separately. Our sandwiches are built the way they are, and that's how we put the caloric content. If you guys take the mayonnaise off, it's healthier. So,
what is your relationship, I guess, with like Chipotle? Because I thought that it was a McDonald's owned restaurant, like subsidiary or something.
Yeah, it was at one point, but divided our focus, and so they stuck with what they're doing good. So got rid of it, and then it started doing better.
Of course.
you know, so.
Alright, what's some fast selling items and what's like the slowest ones for you guys?
Mighty Wings was just recently just a bomb. They're a really expensive product. And so that translated into price, and we're coming into still a really sensitive, price-sensitive market in southeastern Detroit. And they didn't sell very, very good. We only sold half of what we planned, so you'll see it again. It'll be a lower price. But it took negotiations of McDonald's to lower the case price so the operators can lower their finished product price. So, best selling, I mean, the last really, really great one we had was the snack wraps. The Mick wraps, it's a big product. It takes a long time to make, which has kind of affected our service times, which everybody goes to McDonald's because we're fast. So we got to be careful of what new products we get into that takes us away from our core business model, which is speed and convenience, or else we're going to be putting ourselves in the customer's eyes into a category of less convenient places that have lower sales. So we don't want to head in that direction, that's for sure.
Is the core product you sell more of the, like the number of meals, or is it more the dollar menu, the thing that you know is always gonna sell no matter what?
Yeah, well, it depends on the market. In southeastern Detroit, inside the Samoa group, there's the AACM, the African American Consumer Market, and that has a higher rating of people buying off the dollar menu. And the translation for that is those stores typically have higher food costs by up to 2 or 3 points, which is a big deal. I mean, 2 or 3% of $3 million in sales is a ton of money. So it makes it more difficult for them down there, for sure. I have a pretty good balance up here. It's a pretty high income per capita. Lots of dispendable income. Even the kids have allowances or whatever jobs that they have that, they don't have to pay for their lodging or cars and stuff, so they have extra money to eat and go out. So. Any other questions?
I have a question. It
Sure.
relates to scheduling and demand. So when are the busiest hours and when are the slowest hours, and how do you handle the staffing to make sure that you have just the right mix?
Okay. So we have 3 peak service times. There's a breakfast, there's a lunch, and there's a dinner peak. So even within my 3 stores, some of the hours are different. So say from 7 to 9 in the Rochester Hills area, that's when most people are commuting to work, taking their kids to school. That is our peak breakfast hour. And then lunch, it used to be 11 to 1. Now it's more 12 to 1. The lunch is kind of contracted because just this Walton and Adams store, in the last 2 years, I have 19 new food competitors. That's an insane amount of people. So that kind of area has shrunk on us. And then at the Utica store, the dinner peak is busier than the lunch, and that's not typical of McDonald's restaurants. It's usually a big lunch and a pretty good dinner, but that one does better dinner business than the lunch business. So their peak is pretty much 6 to 8 over there, and their lunch is 45 minutes to an hour from 12 to 1, 1:15. So those are usually you got to have your most staffing at that point. So you can't have everybody scheduled from 6 to 2 to get you through the breakfast rush and the lunch rush. So some people will have the line bar on a schedule looks like this. So say this is early AM, this is your lunch, and this is PM. It's going to start like this, with more people coming in this time, and then it transfers. So that's going to be the lunch peak. This is going to be the breakfast peak. All these people come in like this. Same thing right here with dinner. You're going to see a lot more lines like that. But in these transition areas, this is where you have to make sure you don't have too many people, because that's where you're gonna waste labor. So this is a time when we're gonna do breaks. It's a time when people are gonna come and go. So usually starting in the morning, there's maintenance things that have to get done, certain cleaning products. People have to prep salads, they have to prep, you know, all the stuff for lunch. We have to fill all the lettuce containers and whatnot. So there's a little bit more money spent in this time frame. So going into lunch, you have higher labor than you do at the end of lunch. So that's kind of how we have to do it. I mean, some people, we've moved more towards more days but shorter shifts. We used to just do block shifts, and the labor we'd end up is what we would end up with. But what we've done is, you know, you don't work 40 hours over 5 days, it's 40 hours over 6 days. So most people have picked up a 6-day, but it's just shorter shifts that they're working. Some people really like it because they only want to work 4 or 5 days a week. So that's one of our biggest employee benefits, is that we do have very flexible schedules. And we need all kinds of different hours. We do need these core people that are going to run from, you know, 6 to 2 every day. We need our 11 to 7s, and we need our 2 to 10s. Those are the block of the people. But then there's 50% of the team is built up of people that are just picking up 4 or 5 hours a day before they come to OU. I just saw a couple of my teammates in the hallway out there, and they were surprised to see me in here. But you know, that's kind of the beauty of our business, is, you know, we can offer opportunity to a lot of different people.
I was gonna ask, what's your ratio of like full to part-time? It hasn't changed because of the new healthcare laws, or gonna change?
It hasn't changed. We've pretty much always been the same. It's about 80-20, 80 part-time, 20 full-time. So, and then the, you know, 10% of the top people are salaried. They run the departments. They run, you know, the kitchen, drive-through people, hiring, orientation, truck, inventory. You know, top 7 systems are run by one person. So those are, you know, the more responsibility you have in any business, the more you're going to get paid. So that would probably bring up our average, but you know, there's a lot of people that don't want responsibility, and they're cool with minimum wage and part-time hours, and that's what it is. So
I know some McDonald's are open 24 hours. Did they get rid of that, or is it just based on like the demand of customers at night for that location?
yeah, it's based off of demand and what the operator wants to do. All 3 of mine are 24 hours. That's part of exceeding the franchisee standards. Like the one at Utica, it doesn't make any money, and from, you know, December through March 15th, it's negative cash flow. But I do it
I live in
too.
Milford, and the one that we have out there is like, they went from 24 hours to not being 24 hours. They've like switched multiple times, so
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was just based.
And that's not good too, because from your standpoint, it's confusing. You don't know if they're open. You gotta pick one line and just go with it. You know, even when we've had negative months, we've had road construction at the same time it was winter time, and you know, it's negative sales, but I'm not gonna, you know, yank that 24 hours just to save, you know, a few bucks in 3 months. So I'm here for the long haul. So they probably lost a lot of sales to their competitors or the other McDonald's in the area. So you got to be consistent for our customers.
I guess for you personally, how you run your stores, when you try to run a promotion to increase like revenue, sales, do you try to maximize something that you know is working, or do you try to improve the ceiling, so to speak, or do you try to lift something up, you know, make a promotion to help something that is struggling?
A little bit of both. It depends what you want to do. You got to be careful though. If you have too many promotions, then people only come to you and they say, you know, this was one of the areas that the operators had concern in the 90s. It was, they basically had a different deal every week, and they trained the customers to come in and say, what's the deal today? And they would go right to, you know, this bundled thing that was, you know, cheaper, moved a lot of those, but then, they weren't focusing on their core. So we have a high-low strategy at McDonald's. We have some high-end products, we have some mid-range products, and we have some low-range products. So try to keep a balance of all three of those. Right now, we just started in my 3 stores and some of the corporation stores that are surround us. We're doing a happy hour from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's a buy one, get one on any McCafe product. So that's a high-end margin. So we sell one, we give one away. You're just making a few pennies on each one, but if we can just sell a couple more cups during that time frame, it's just that many competitors we're taking sales from. And I'll offer anything to steal market share right now, basically. And that's what the fight is. Our industry isn't expected to grow till 2020. That's a long time off. So we got to make sure that you keep as many, you grow your customer base, and the only way to grow it, if people aren't flocking to Michigan in droves to come to McDonald's, is you have to steal them from your competitors. So everybody knows that that's what we're in. That's why you guys see so many promotions and stuff going on at all the QSR restaurants, or even the mid-range, high-end, sit-down ones. Like, you got to have deals, because we're not getting this mad rush of new citizens, I guess. So that's the fight. People who make the best decisions, in the industry will be standing when it's done. Even in McDonald's, like the operators that run their business the leanest, the meanest, or they're not making selfish moves to put themselves first, and they keep money in the banks for business, they'll be around. They'll be the ones that are growing. So it's just like anything else in the world.
In regards to the McCafe, I know there's been a lot of talk about it not being the most successful thing. How has it worked out for your stores personally, and do you see it being around for a long time, or is it something that's going to start to be looked at really seriously about, do we really want to keep doing this, or do we want to kind of step away from it?
Yeah, the McCafe it's kind of a brand within a brand that we created. We made a couple mistakes, which was we had this premium coffee, and it was about 4 years ago. We were coffee advertising. Sales went up, and then we put it at $1, and everybody said it's cheap. That means, or it's got a good price on it or a low price, so it can't be good quality. And then the sales of the coffee went down. So we're kind of refocusing nationally and in the regional, refocus on coffee. We've obviously rebranded it. We got rid of the styrofoam cups, 1, because it's terrible for the environment, but 2, from a consumer perspective, people like the paper cups. They like that it's made of post-consumer products, and that it's just the coffee house look that everybody's going for. So how does that work for you guys? A lot of people that were tested on it, they saw the McDonald's styrofoam cup as like, that's my grandfather's coffee. He drank out of styrofoam. So everybody who drinks coffee now, the paper is the in thing. So we made the big investment to have new machines that make paper cups. So styrofoam obviously keeps your coffee the hottest it can be, but that's the second best thing right there. And if it's going to drive more transactions, we want it to be part of it.
So has it been successful for your stores then?
It's getting that way, but I'm looking at it from, now as a starting point. We just started this relaunch, the coffee rewards and stuff. In the last 15 days, that's going to start. So in order to get the traction moving a little bit is why we did the 2 to 5. And not everybody's doing it, but I want to give every effort towards making it the most successful that it can and steal some competitors. But we're at the beginning of a 5-year march that, we're basically copying what McDonald's in Canada did, and how many cups that they sold. They went from, I'd say 100, 150 a day to 900 a day, and it's a high profit margin thing. So we're repeating what they did, but it takes 5 years to reach that. So a lot of different variables in there too. What else was going on in Canada that isn't going to be going on here to drive the same results, you know. Tim Hortons kind of the king there, so you know, McDonald's just, it made up a lot of market share once they started focusing it and, you know, marketing to the Canadian people as, you know, we're cheaper than Tim Hortons and it's the same bean that we're grinding, so, and we can do it faster, basically.
I want to ask a question, as a personal question to you. Based on your experiences, do you walk into some businesses and say, I don't think this is going to work or this is not going to survive? Do you bring your own knowledge to other businesses and make observations as you go through?
Yeah, I mean, I spy on all the competitors. I try the products, go through the drive-through. You know, you got to know what they're doing, but sometimes you see some strengths, sometimes you see weaknesses, but it's the strengths that I focus on mostly and say this is what they're doing that could be perceived as better, or this is what they're doing better than we are.
Could you point to something you've seen and you said that's not going to work? In any business, it need not be QSR, it could be at a grocery store.
You know, I wouldn't want to badmouth anybody's idea because, you know, if they open up a shop that they've been dreaming of theirs, I wouldn't want to be the guy who speaks negatively about it because, you know, A, I don't want to be proved wrong, and B, you know, I wouldn't want to dash anybody's dreams or hopes, but something that's just so focused maybe on one product, I could see that it would be tough to make money at that product. Say if it was just a cupcake shop, like that's going to be tough. Just you're focusing on one product. McDonald's has, God, we have over 150, and that's why we have the sales that we do, because a lot of different people come to us for different things. You know, you got the family aspect, you have the health aspect of the salads and the chicken products, and then you have your construction guys with the big appetites that eat the big sandwiches and large fries. And now we have this McCafe. There's, you know, people out there that coffee is no longer just like something that you do in the morning. People drink coffee all day, and some of the lattes and the frappes and those blended products are treats. And people are doing their meals not 3 squares a day like our grandfathers and our parents grew up with, and some of you guys still might have. But it's more of a grazing platform where people will come and pick up 200-300 calories in each sitting, and sometimes it's with McDonald's, sometimes they'll go to Qdoba, sometimes they'll go to Panera, but they have a lot of different choices out there, so they're making different decisions.
Do you ever think about doing some sort of self-checkout process, getting people either just to place their own order or you know, somehow check themselves out, so there's just, I guess, less employee interaction or something?
Yep. There's tests for self-kiosks, you know, customers ring up the order, it's really easy to do, and then there's just a person that presents the food. If there's continual increases in the labor part of our business, I would imagine that you'll see more and more of that. It'll probably start with 1, but then if it's working out well, there'll be 2, and then eventually maybe there'll be nobody on the front line. But as our business gets crunched with, you know, increased healthcare, increased wages that you have to pay, there's only so much that we can go to the price, you know, that we're going to charge the customers to pay for that stuff. So we'll probably see more of that. There's test markets for it right now, but certain groups of people, like, you know, aren't tech savvy and they're scared of it, you know. But the newer generation, like the iPhones, I mean, you guys were born with iPhones basically, so we'll have to have both at some point, I'd imagine. But we got to be careful as well. McDonald's is one of the biggest employers in the country, so we start getting rid of, you know, some of the good things that we have. You know, all that would be left would be the negative stereotypes that we have. So that's going to be a delicate balance. You know, I mean, each one of my stores have, the 2 big ones have 80 part-time employees, and then 20, 25 managers. So almost 100 people per restaurant. So we start automating or having self-kiosks and stuff, just a few less, so.
Couple more questions?
Do you have any control over the pricing? I know if you go out of state, sometimes the
Yeah.
prices are different places.
Pricing is up to the operator. McDonald's has a third-party company that they take in all the competitors in your trade area, and then they kind of give you an idea of where you could be at. Right now, I'm about 50 cents on the meals, lower than that, to continue to get more customers. So, yeah, we could reach for that, but what we trade off in profit, we're going to trade off in guest counts, and the name of the game is to hold as many customers as you can, so we'll hold back on that. But anything that's voted in our local co-op or OpNet, which is the country, if it's a fixed price, you have to participate in that fixed price, or else that's one of the things on the franchisee standards now. It's new, effective April, is that, you know, if you're not voting in line with your co-op or what the OpNet says, you're not exceeding your expectations or meeting your expectations in that case, so.
Okay, folks, there's a sign-up sheet going on around, so make sure you sign in before you leave, but I'd like to have you help me. Thank Bill for coming to our class today.
Thanks, guys.